The old train station. In a small town surrounded by tall trees and silent hills, there stood an old train station that no longer served any trains. The clock on its tower had stopped at exactly 3:15, and the wooden benches were covered with dust. People walked past it every day, but no one ever stopped to look closely. Everyone except for a 16-year-old boy named Eli. Eli loved old places. They made him feel like he was standing in a piece of history. Every afternoon after school, he would walk past the station, run his hand along the cold metal fence, and imagine what the place looked like when it was alive with people, voices, and the sound of train whistles. One cloudy afternoon, curiosity finally pulled him inside. The heavy door creaked as he pushed it open. Dust floated in the air like tiny stars, and the room smelled of old wood and forgotten time. Eli's footsteps echoed on the cracked floor. He walked slowly, taking in every detail: old posters on the wall, a broken suitcase in the corner, and a long ticket counter with faded paint. Then, he noticed something strange. On the counter lay a single, clean train ticket. It looked brand new, untouched by time or dust. Printed on it were 5 words. One ride, one choice. 3:15. Eli frowned. 3:15, he whispered, looking up at the old clock. The hands still pointed to that exact time. Suddenly, the air shifted. The silence broke as the distant sound of a train whistle echoed through the building. Eli's heart started pounding. That was impossible. No trains had run through this town for more than 40 years. And yet, the ground beneath him began to tremble. Far down the overgrown tracks, through the fog, a dark train was coming toward the station, its headlight glowing like a single bright eye in the mist. The metal wheels screamed as it slowed down, and with a final loud hiss of steam, the train stopped at the platform. The doors slowly opened. Inside, the lights were dim, and the seats were empty. No conductor, no passengers, only silence, and waiting. Eli looked down at the ticket in his hand. One ride, one choice, a choice. Something inside him said he should run. That this was wrong, dangerous, impossible, but stronger than fear was his curiosity. With slow steps, Eli climbed onto the train. The door closed behind him without a touch, and the train suddenly moved. Outside the window, the town disappeared. Trees blurred into colors. The sky darkened and then brightened again, like time itself was changing. He watched in amazement as landscapes flashed by: oceans, mountains, cities, deserts, space filled with stars. It was not traveling through places. It was traveling through time. The train finally slowed and stopped again. Eli looked out and saw something that made his breath catch in his throat. It was the same town. But it was different. New buildings lined the street. People wore clothes he had never seen. Flying delivery drones filled the sky. The old train station was gone, replaced by a tall glass tower labeled Eli Transport Corporation, Est. 2065, and at the gate stood a man. The man was older, maybe in his 50s. But his face, it was Eli's face. The older man smiled. I was wondering when you would arrive, he said calmly. Who are you? Eli whispered. You already know, the man replied. I'm who you become. Eli's mind raced. This isn't real. Oh, it's real, the man said. This is your future. You grew up loving machines, transportation, and problem solving. You studied hard, even when life was heavy. Even when you felt misunderstood. You didn't give up. He pointed to the tower. You built something that connects people again. You rebuilt what was forgotten. Eli looked up in disbelief. I did that. Yes, the older Eli said, his eyes kind. But not yet. You still have a choice to make. What kind of choice? The man held up a different ticket. On it were written 2 paths. Path 1. Fear, doubt, giving up. Path 2. Courage, patience, growth. You won't become me by accident, the older Eli said. You become me by choice. The train doesn't choose your future. You do. The world around them started to fade into light. Remember this moment, the future version of himself said, his voice echoing as everything dissolved. And one day, you'll be the one standing here, waiting for a younger version of yourself to arrive. Suddenly, Eli felt himself falling. Then, silence. He opened his eyes and found himself back inside the old train station. The dust was floating again. The door was broken. The clock still read 3:15. But the ticket in his hand had changed. Now it only said, the future begins now. Eli slowly smiled. From that day on, whenever life became difficult, whenever he doubted himself or felt tired, he remembered the train, the version of himself, and the choice he had been given. And step by step, choice by choice, The old train station was no longer a place of the past. It had become the beginning of his future. Don't forget like share and subscribe for more.